what Navy was able to do at East Carolina last weekend?
Yeah, I mean, just golly, so often as you've seen, I mean, they played really, really well defensively, played really, really well offensively, where they had really good balance, and a heck of a road victory. I mean, to beat an East Carolina team that really had North Carolina State on the ropes, that was quite a win.
As it relates to a matchup with you, their rush defense has been very good, top 5 in the country, top 6 in the country. What are they doing defensively against the run?
Well, I think they play blocks well, which, I think they have a little bit. It's helpful that they have to play them frequently, during spring ball and during the month of August, and just in general played really, really good defense.
What has pleased you the most about the way that John Lee Eldridge has run the ball?
Well, he's done some good things. I mean, certainly he played a bunch of snaps in a row the other night. We got to keep an eye on that a little bit. Just because there are things that go beyond running the ball that I think would help by being able to make sure that he has some snaps where he's not on the field too. But shown good strength, good change of direction, and has produced some good gains too.
Do you have someone that monitors those carries and the amount of work, someone with a tally mark, for lack of a better way?
We do not.
So it's kind of a feel thing?
It is. Now, if you have a carry that goes 120 yards and gains 50, I don't know. I mean, that thing weaved back across the field. Yeah. I thought the carry itself might have been, he probably covered at least 100 yards of ground, even though it only,
surprised you that Chuck Peterson got back into the college game after being in high school?
I mean, what a super addition. Tremendous football coach, just class human being, and a guy that no one has better understanding of Service Academy football and just the feel for cadets, or in this case, middies.
Did you guys cross over about 5-6 years?
We did.
Coaches?
Yep. I mean,
what did you learn from him?
He was just his commitment, his level of professionalism, day in, day out, how eager he was to learn all positions, and the way he could see a big picture too. Team-wise, see a big picture, and offensively also.
What does this game against Navy mean to you?
Well, for us, you have an opportunity to play football, right? We don't ever take that for granted, and then just I shouldn't say, well, it is a sacrifice. The dedication of the students, the cadets, and the midshipmen, both at both schools, that they're making to our country to go serve.
And then, how's the team been just this week heading into your next game?
We always take a previous game and try to learn as much as you can, and then try to develop our own squad, because I think that's where you have to start. In addition to doing things that are a part of your preparation and your game planning for your next opponent.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good.
Not that I think this is an issue, but do you have to remind your guys at all, because they hear it all week long on the Hill, how important this game is to everyone else, even though it's just another game. But from an emotional standpoint, do you have to remind your players to keep their emotions in check?
Well, I think the key is to focus on, the quality of your execution. And now, are there going to be a bunch of points scored? Probably not. Not that there hasn't been. I'm trying to think, when was it? In 17, there were a bunch of points scored. Yet, there's you never know when it ends up being maybe 100 snaps total in terms of offense and defense. Times where you think, is this going to be a 14-10 game? You don't ever know that. But I do think being less possessions, less snaps, but it doesn't take away from, again, the emphasis of what it needs to be, just being able to operate.
You're talking discipline. Is that kind of what you were getting at? Like it's a always being disciplined is very important in any game, but maybe in this game, is that what you were kind of getting at, like the closeness of the games? And
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, you know, you end up having a bunch of these that are really, I mean, that are, so much of it's the makeup of the young people involved, you know, and the other part just, you know, you got to dial in on being able to function and execute. And I think if you do that, then you got a chance to play your best football.
I know you probably won't like this question, but I'll ask it anyway. How many text messages do you receive when you play Navy? Like, go get them or whatever.
You do get a few more in those weeks, yes, sir.
Can you maybe, you don't have to be specific, but just give me a general idea?
Nah, because I can't tell you what it's going to be, and I can't forecast in the next 4 days what that might be too.
Yeah. Well, what do you think is the biggest concern when it comes to playing Navy this week?
Well, I don't know if it's a level of, it's just, you know, the level of respect that's involved. Again, not only for the football part of it, beyond the football. The other part, or they're just, you know, there's some resemblances, I think, for both squads in terms of what you see. You know, both squads want to play well up front, offensively and defensively. You want to do a good job of handling the ball, and yet there are going to be some times where you also want to try to be able to, you know, to have some larger gain plays without completely sacrificing a bunch of series.
I have one more, and I don't ask this as a wise guy, seriously. I know how much you admire and respect Navy and Army. Is this a week where you just almost just hate talk? I know coaches don't like talking.
Not at all.
Football.
Not at all.
Talking about this week at all, or just, you know, being in front of us and having to talk? And
No, not at all. I mean, I just, and it goes back again. I mean, just when you think of, golly, if you're 17 or 18 years old, and I don't want to say you have the pick of the lot as far as where you could go to college, but you said, I'm going to raise my right hand, I'm going to take an oath to go fight for our Constitution. I can tell you what it does to my heart when you think that way. I mean, it enlarges, you know, it gets a little bigger. I think that's pretty darn cool.
The academy games as a whole have trended toward defensive games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you mentioned 17, but since then it's by and large been that.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned some of the things, you know, the defenses see that in spring and fall. What other variables, or do you think, are causing this?
No, I think that's a part. I think the other aspect, they're less plays. Golly, you know, you think we've played games where, you know, in regulation, meaning 4 quarters, where there might be 108, you know, 150 snaps, 150 plus snaps, and there are times in these games where it might be 100. So you're playing 2.5 quarters instead of 4. That's a little bit of a factor, I think, too.
But especially the game last year in Annapolis, it wasn't the long sustained drives. It was neither team being able to get anything going on the ground, really. How much of that could just be also the familiarity? The coaches have all been in place for a while.
Yeah.
You know, you guys know each other and you know your tendencies.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. It was 7-3 for for about the first 42 minutes or so of the game, right? Yeah. Yeah, that might be a factor also.
And do you think also, do you guys all maybe tend to build a defense run first because you guys are all on each other's schedule? Plus, you know, you've always had a couple other running teams you perennially face. Is that part of it too? Just a strategic building a defense from a certain perspective?
I don't think so, and the reason why is I think you have 10 other games where I don't want to say you're solely top-down, coverage-driven, but that is really, really important in those other 10 games. And just because you're going to have 10 other games probably where you're I'd guess you're probably averaging facing at least 30 throws in a game. Or in these two games, I don't know when the last time somebody did attempt 25 throws. Actually, that's not true. We attempted 20-some throws, I believe, in 2019. And we had a couple sacks that were part of it, too.
Speaking of coverage, Michael Mack, being able to kind of bring stability to one side, as you've had injuries and other things at the other side. How important has he been to your defense so far?
He has. I'll tell you what just Mike is, his level of confidence has increased. He's just more precise in terms of, his technique and fundamentally the way he plays football. And just the growth that's occurred, and it goes back just his focus and his work ethic.
And where specifically would a trophy sit? The Commander-in-Chief's trophy? Where does it?
I don't know.
Do you have a specific spot for it?
I think it kind of varies, moves around a little bit.
And then back to John Lee Eldridge. You mentioned his change of direction. When you're defending a running back who's able to do that, how does that impact pursuit angles, gap assignments, things like that, when maybe what you thought, the trajectory you thought he was going isn't where he's going at the end?
Yeah, fundamentally, so much of what you teach is on any ball going to a perimeter is to really dial in and pin the near hip. Is so often what you instruct your guys to do, and to close distance and to snap gather or to go through the near hip. But when there's a sudden change of direction, that's a little bit harder because that hip's moving. So that does make it more challenging.
Well, so talking about Brian Newberry, the Navy defensive coordinator, you've gone against him a few times now. Do you feel as though you have a good feel for what he likes to do against the option?
Bill, I think they do a good job of mixing things up. And, I think each year it's been a little bit different approach. Certainly when you go from 19 to 20 to 21, you're really looking at three I don't want to say completely different, but each game has a different approach to it, I think, defensively.
Okay. Who is sticking out to you on the Navy defense? Obviously, their rushing defense, as mentioned earlier in this press conference, has been solid. They're ranked fifth in the nation. Has anyone in particular stood out to you for Navy defense?
Right. The part that really stands out is just collectively how well they play. And golly, you think of some of those guys that were able to play when they were really, really young last year in their Army game. I think that had to be a huge boost, to the way that they played this year, too, just the way it carried forth. My goodness, you look in the opener, how well they played defensively last week in Greenville, how well they played, especially against the run. They're a really, really good group.
What offensively, Navy, they've got a couple speedy slot backs who have shown up. The Vincent Terrell, who had the 3 receptions against East Carolina, including the 65-yarder for a touchdown, and Mikel Haywood has been a guy that every time he touches the ball has made things happen. He's got a very high average per carry. What are you seeing in those two slot backs? Do they concern you?
Well, their top end speed is it's fantastic, and I think it even carries over with the kickoff return part of it, and that was evident even last season. Just how good he was on kickoff returns, and both of them on perimeter plays, and it certainly showed the other night in Greenville too.
Coach Niumatalolo was mentioning that on the one hand, there's no secrets in a game like this. You all have gone against each other so much. You know what each other does. But at the same time, it's almost obligatory for each team to try to pull out something different. Navy's tried different schemes. You've done different things. Like the time you didn't play, you played an even front when you've been playing an odd front all forever against Navy. Why is that, and do you expect that to occur more again this year? Something wrinkles out of nowhere?
Well, I think you do that each week, and it's not that, you absolutely have a baseline. We both do, in all of our systems. That could be, what you're doing with your punt team, certainly defensively and offensively. But I think you just naturally, change or evolve a little bit from week to week. If Jim Palmer throws 120 pitches for 4 straight weeks, it doesn't mean in his next outing that you want him to do it again.
Right. Brian Noor coming on board. I know this is his third stint as an assistant in the Air Force, but coming aboard as defensive coordinator, what can you say about Brian and the job he's done? Coach Niemot said the other day he thinks it's been a seamless transition for him, what he's seen to Brian running the defense.
Yeah, he's done a really, really good job. I think you look, the first game when we had most of our initial unit out there, really throughout the season thus far they have played, we've played really solid defense. Now, I think this week's different. I think just because the scheme's so much different than what you've seen in your first 4 games, and yet he's as thorough as they come in terms of how meticulous with the preparation and making sure our guys see every possible look. You mentioned some wrinkles here or there, and golly, you got to be careful not to chase Casper all over the place, but
Right.
There are still some things you have to do in practice, whether it's misdirection plays, balls that maybe get thrown back to a quarterback. When I say the misdirection, the reverses, just stuff, screens, things that you think at some point you've seen over the last 5 years that you try to make sure you expose your defense to, in addition to being really, really good against the plays and certainly the formations that are most prominent also. And he does a great, great job of that.
I know that you lost some very, top-end players on your defense, Jackson and others. Who has emerged to the fore as the kind of a cornerstone guys on defense? Anyone in particular that you would mention, Troy?
Well, Bill, we did lose some really, really good players on both sides of the ball. You mentioned Jordan Jackson. Just to have a guy that's drafted is a 6th-round pick. You go through just, the veteran presence of DeMonte Meeks. I think of how he played absolutely fantastic last year in this game. DeMonte did. Trey Bugg, Corvin Taylor. Those are guys that are, that have been very difficult to replace. Yet at the same time, what's kind of neat to see, at inside backer, T.D. Blackman and Alec Mock have played pretty solid football for us so far this year. And, we just talked a little bit earlier about Michael Mack at a corner. And the safeties, we've had 3 safeties that have been pretty involved too, being Trey Taylor, Jaden Goodwin, and Camby Goff.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, Thiesen's been around a while. Coach Niemot was saying that he's surprised he's not a head coach at this point. He thinks so highly of the job he does with your offense. And I know you guys are a collaborative effort, you and Mike, but what can you say about having a veteran coordinator like that who you just trust implicitly?
Yeah, you look with him and Steed Labotsky, those 2 guys, having them, they've been together now. This is their 8th season. Is that right? Yeah, 15 through 20. Yeah, this is the 8th season together. Golly, they do such a, Mike, as far as formations and certain plays that he likes, things that he really feels like the quarterback, we're going to execute well. And then Lobo with the job that he does up front with the offensive line. Golly, yeah, he's done a tremendous job. Mike has. and the whole offensive staff.
So was that Chuck Peterson that someone asked you about earlier?
It was, yeah.
So was Chuck? What was he coaching when you were there as quarterback, Troy? Well, I know he coached quarterbacks. He coached pretty much every offensive position at Air Force at some time. What was he doing when you were there, and what are your recollections?
He was coaching the receivers. He actually coached quarterbacks as a graduate assistant in the fall at 85, and he was splendid. I mean, you really would have thought instead of him being a corner that he played quarterback here. I mean, just the depth of knowledge that he has. Just an outstanding communicator. Somebody that always was studying the game, and so little changes here or there, and yet had the right balance between when you got to be a little bit creative and change some things, yet at the same time to make sure still there's a foundation. And he was. When you look at the job he did here at the Air Force Academy, remarkable, and that's not even giving it its entire due. I mean, just amazing.
When he got hired at Navy, he called Fisher, and Fisher wasn't too happy. Among you guys, Air Force guys, is this almost a traitorous act for a guy that coached so long? I mean, he was there with Fisher almost the whole time, and now he's over at Navy. How do you deal with that?
Well, you're happy for him as a human being and for his family, for him and Roya, and just a guy that truly is a credit to Service Academy football, and you knew you were a Naval Academy was getting just a just top-notch human being as a leader too. So I think we absolutely want people of high character and tremendous leadership qualities, and that comes with the coaching part of it, being involved with our academies, and he's every bit of that and more.
I'm Brent with the Gazette. Nice to meet you. Did you play in the Service Academy games last year, or what was your role in those games?
I did not play in the Service Academy games last year. I didn't start playing till towards the end of season, and so that's when I started contributing a little bit more.
Okay. But being a part of the team, you obviously absorbed that. What is it like, for you personally, and then kind of what's the mood of the team?
I think this is a game that is circled on everyone's calendar, including ours, because beginning of the year, our team has goals, and this is at the top of it. And this is, the first step in achieving that goal. So, the team's excited. I think we're ready. We had a good first day yesterday. I think we just got to continue that.
And at the Z spot, what's it been like, with injuries and everything else? Like, how much have you seen this as an opportunity to get more reps and to kind of, stake your claim to more playing time?
I think as a Z, Coach Campbell calls us the playmakers. And so, we do a little bit of everything at that position. And so, unfortunately, we do have some injuries that go on during the season. And I think that gives opportunities to guys to, step up, fill the shoes and fill those roles that need to be filled.
And how much study has there been put into this week? Just because it's been so hard for you guys to run the ball against Navy. And so are you guys really studying that to say, let's attack them here, let's, go away from this? Like, is there a little more thought put into that this week than other weeks, at least, through Tuesday afternoon?
Yes. I think we always prepare for these two Service Academy games. I mean, dating all the way back to the spring ball and even fall ball. We're always preparing for these guys. And so, there's a little more emphasis this week. But I think if we, do what we know we can do and what we've shown previous during the season, I think we can get the job done.
And do you think there's a chance we might see a few more guys this week? Some people become available who haven't played?
There's a chance.
Awesome. One more question. Do you know where the trophy would go if the Commander-in-Chief's trophy came back? Because it's been a while. Is there like a reserved spot that you've ever seen?
I think it would, be right here in the Falcon Athletic Center, where I think it belongs. So that's our goal this year.
Yeah, that's the second time you've mentioned the goal. Have you ever seen the Commander-in-Chief's trophy in person?
I have not.
And have you looked at it online or anything? I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Yes, sir. I've seen pictures.
Okay. Well, so can you describe why it's so important for you to kind of get that back and bring it to its rightful owner?
I think for us, given especially my class, since we haven't had it since I've been here, I think that's kind of the longing to have it back here since we haven't had it in a little while.
How much do you guys talk about that?
As a team, like I said before the season, we sat down extensively with all the seniors. And like I said previously, that was number one goal on our list. And in the Z room, we talk about the Commander Chief Trophy daily, because Coach Campbell always likes to remind us that when he was here, it was always here. And so yeah, that's the point of emphasis. We talk about that a good amount.
You haven't played in this game, but actually, I wanted to ask, what's the talk on the Hill, like from your peers? Like, what do they say to you? Can you maybe fill me in a little bit of how important it is up on the Hill?
I think up on the Hill, they're almost as ecstatic as we are, down here preparing for the game. I think that just represents the culture, that we have here, and especially with our fans. We know it's a big game for the fans as well. People always, just tell me, bring it home this year. And for me being a senior, this is my last opportunity to, bring it home. And so, that's what we're looking forward to.
And in a non-political kind of question, how cool would it be to be able to go to the White House as a senior?
I think that'd be a great opportunity. That's something that obviously we want to happen, and I think that if we play the way we know we can play, we can make that happen. I think this would be a cool opportunity overall. And
I have to ask this question. Maybe I don't, but playing Navy is no cupcake. Why is that?
I think with any service academy game, we're so used to playing. We're essentially playing ourselves. So we know what they're gonna do. They know what we're gonna do. It's basically on Saturday. The team that comes out the hottest, the best, and the most disciplined is always gonna win those games. So I think that's what makes it difficult.
I know y'all's game against Navy is just, y'all kind of look at it as just another football game, but do you have any emotion going into this game coming up?
I think the only emotion I have, personally, I think I can speak, for the team as well, is just excitement. It's just another opportunity to prove ourselves. And obviously there's going to be a lot of hype around this game because of what this game means to us and to our fans. But, to us, it's just pure excitement. And I think we're ready.
I just want to know what this season's been like for you. Holding down one side while injuries and everything else has happened on the other side at corner. Like how have you embraced that role, and what's it been like?
It's truly been a wonderful role. Last year just being under the mentorship of Trey, just picking up all of his habits, having people like James Jones, learning from him. He's been here. He was here for a minute, and just being able to apply that and also give back to the guys that, are coming up after me. Just it's part of the whole boat brotherhood, trying to carry that on.
Has it been a lot on your shoulders just because of what else has happened at the position?
Yes, sir. We've had a rotation of 3 starting corners on the opposite side, just trying to figure out, okay, what works for them individually, what works for us as a group, and how can I aid to them? How can I make their play much better?
And now this week, obviously the running games get all the focus, but there's always big pass plays in this game. And as someone who's going to be out on an island, because you've got to support the run with everybody else, like how important is that role, and how excited are you to kind of take that on?
Especially with these option teams, it's mostly just a mental thing, making sure my eyes are in the right spot, just being able to contribute when the opportunity comes. Don't know when it's going to happen, but I know I must be prepared for it every play.
I know it's hard to talk about yourself, but what makes you a strong cover corner?
I would say just the mental aspect of the game, just being able to break the game down, read my keys, reading the quarterback, knowing tendencies of the receivers, different formations. That gives me the edge on top of being a 6'1" corner in this conference.
What kind of measurable speed or anything else do you have?
So back in the spring, I ran a 4.44 and a 4 flat on the shuttle, I believe.
Wow. Okay. And this game, like coming to Air Force when you first committed and everything else, like when did you first start hearing about, Army, Navy, and what this series means?
So I grew up about maybe 25 minutes from Annapolis, and I just used to hear about the games as a child. Remember watching them on Saturday mornings. Never knew I would end up playing in one of them. It really feels like a dream come true.
I didn't realize you were from that area.
Yes, sir.
Were you recruited by Navy?
Yes, sir.
What led you here if that was so close to home?
I just like the culture out here. It was much more connecting. It seemed much more impacting. And just talking to some of the players, I felt like this felt more like home than Maryland itself.
Okay, was that a tough decision or was it?
Oh, no, sir. Not at all.
And did you go to games and stuff as a kid?
Yes,
at
sir.
Navy? Wow, was that like your favorite team or was
No.
that just the close by?
It was just a close-by team.
Got it. What was your favorite team?
Growing up, I would say Penn State was my favorite team.
I take it they didn't come
No,
through with
sir.
an offer. Okay, cool. All right. Well, good luck this week.
Thank you.
Michael, is this the first Service Academy game you're playing in?
No, sir.
Okay. Can you describe what the emotions are like at playing in that game?
I would say they're very down-to-earth, gridiron heart football. It's like those youth games that you used to have when you were younger, the rival, the championship type games, You knew what you were getting into way before the game was about to start, and you knew that you were going to have to come and bring everything that you have. You couldn't leave anything on the table.
Is it one of those games where it's tough to keep your emotions in check because you know what's at stake?
No, sir. I would say what keeps me level-headed, just looking at it as play after play after play, keeping it level-headed, the highs, the lows. I just have to stay consistent throughout the game.
How important is it for you personally to get the Commander-in-Chief's trophy back here on the Air Force Academy?
It's been on my list since my commitment. That's always been a goal. The CIC championship along with the Mountain West championship, bowl games, everything. I've yet to win a championship in my football career, and I look forward to closing in on it eventually soon within these next 2 years.